Have you ever wondered what makes spiders the ultimate survivors? Picture this. While massive dinosaurs ruled the earth and then vanished without a trace, these eight-legged architects were quietly perfecting their craft, building death traps from liquid silk and injecting venom cocktails that would make a chemist jealous. Today, over 50,000 different spider species call our planet home, from tiny jumping spiders that could fit on your fingernail to massive tarantulas with leg spans wider than dinner plates. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. Spiders weren't always the sophisticated predators we know today. The story of how they evolved from primitive crawling creatures into some of nature's most ingenious hunters is nothing short of extraordinary. We're talking about an evolutionary journey that spans nearly 400 million years, filled with mass extinctions, environmental catastrophes, and innovations that would revolutionize the predator game forever. In this video, I'm going to take you on an incredible journey through time to uncover the insane evolution of spiders. We'll explore how these creatures survived multiple mass extinction events that wiped out entire groups of animals, how they invented some of the most sophisticated hunting techniques on the planet, and why their evolutionary story is one of the most remarkable tales of adaptation you've ever heard. But first, let me blow your mind with just how successful spiders have become. These creatures have colonized virtually every habitat on Earth except the open ocean and Antarctica. They've mastered ground hunting, aerial ambushes, and even underwater survival. Some species can fly through the air using silk balloons, while others have developed camouflage so perfect they're virtually invisible to both predators and prey. What makes this story even more fascinating is that we can actually trace their evolutionary journey with incredible precision. Unlike many ancient creatures that left behind only fragmentary fossils, spiders have given us an amazing gift. Some of their earliest relatives are still alive today, providing us with a living window into their prehistoric past. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into one of evolution's greatest success stories. By the end of this series, you'll understand exactly how spiders went from simple scavengers to becoming the planet's most diverse group of predators, and why their evolutionary innovations continue to inspire modern technology and engineering. Let's start our journey in the Devonian period, roughly 380 million years ago. Picture a world completely different from today. Massive continents covered in primitive forests where towering ferns created dense canopies, and the first amphibians were just beginning to explore life on land. The air was thick and humid, oxygen levels were higher than today, and the landscape was dominated by vast swamps and shallow seas. In these ancient forests, crawling among the decomposing plant matter and primitive soil, lived creatures that would set the stage for one of evolution's most incredible success stories. These weren't quite spiders yet, but they were getting close. Among these early pioneers was a tiny arachnid that scientists have named Arachnids. And this little creature represents one of the most important stepping stones in spider evolution. Now, Arachnids was small, probably no bigger than a few millimeters in length, but what it lacked in size, it made up for in evolutionary significance. This ancient arachnid possessed something revolutionary, the ability to produce silk. But here's where it gets interesting. The silk that Atacapus produced wasn't like the precise engineered strands we see in modern spider webs. Instead, this early silk was more primitive, creating shapeless mats rather than the intricate structures we associate with spiders today. Think about how groundbreaking this innovation was. In a world where most predators relied on speed, strength, or camouflage, Atacapus had stumbled upon something entirely different, the ability to create tools from its own body. These silk mats served multiple purposes. The creature used them to protect its eggs from predators and environmental hazards, and it also used silk to reinforce the walls of its burrows, creating more stable living spaces in the loose forest soil. But here's what's truly fascinating. Atacapus belongs to an extinct group called arachnids, which means it wasn't technically a true spider. It was what scientists call a proto-spider, a creature that had developed some spider-like characteristics but hadn't yet evolved all the features that define modern spiders. Most importantly, Atacapus lacked fully developed spinnerets, the specialized organs that modern spiders use to control their silk production with incredible precision. This raises an incredible question. If Atacapus could produce silk but wasn't a true spider, what evolutionary pressures were driving the development of silk production? The answer lies in the brutal reality of life in these ancient ecosystems. The Devonian forests were teeming with small arthropods like springtails, mites, and early insects. Competition for food was intense, and survival often depended on finding innovative ways to secure resources and protect offspring. Silk production gave Atacapus and its relatives a significant advantage. While other predators had to actively hunt their prey, expending valuable energy in the process, these proto-spiders could create protective shelters and egg cases that dramatically increased their offspring survival rates. This passive approach to survival would become a recurring theme in spider evolution, leading to some of the most sophisticated hunting strategies we see in nature today. But the story doesn't end with Atacapus. The transition from proto-spiders to true spiders required millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The first genuine spiders wouldn't appear until much later, during the Carboniferous period over 300 million years ago. This was a time when the Earth's climate was warm and humid, and vast coal swamps covered much of what is now Europe and North America. These early true spiders belonged to a group called Mesothelae, and they represent one of the most remarkable examples of evolutionary persistence in the natural world. Here's what's absolutely incredible. Despite originating over 300 million years ago, Mesothelae spiders are still alive today. Over 100 species of these ancient spiders currently live in the forests of Southeast Asia, China, and Japan, making them living fossils that provide scientists with an unprecedented window into spider evolution. Imagine being able to study creatures that have remained virtually unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. That's exactly what Mesothelae spiders offer us. By examining these modern representatives of ancient spider lineages, scientists can piece together how early spiders lived, hunted, and survived in prehistoric ecosystems. These early true spiders had developed something that Atacopus lacked, proper spinnerets. This might seem like a small anatomical difference, but it was revolutionary. Spinnerets gave spiders precise control over their silk production, allowing them to create different types of silk for different purposes. They could produce strong structural silk for building, sticky capture silk for trapping prey, and fine signal silk for communication. But here's where mesothelial spiders get really interesting. Unlike the web-building spiders that most people are familiar with today, these ancient spiders were primarily ground dwellers that used their silk in much more subtle ways. They constructed elaborate burrows in the forest floor, complete with silk-lined walls and ingenious trapdoor systems. Picture this hunting strategy. A mesothelial spider would dig a burrow in the soft forest soil, then line the entrance with incredibly sensitive silk strands. These weren't webs in the traditional sense, but rather early warning systems. When an unsuspecting insect or small arthropod walked across one of these silk tripwires, the vibrations would travel directly to the spider waiting in its burrow below. The moment the spider detected these vibrations, it would explode from its hiding place with lightning speed, grabbing its prey before the victim even knew what hit it. This ambush strategy was incredibly energy efficient. While other predators were constantly on the move, burning calories as they searched for food, mesothelial spiders could remain motionless for hours or even days, conserving their energy until the perfect moment to strike. This passive hunting approach gave early spiders a massive advantage over their competitors. In ecosystems where food was often scarce and competition was fierce, the ability to hunt efficiently while conserving energy was a game changer. It allowed spiders to survive in environments where more active predators struggled to find enough food to sustain themselves. But mesothelial spiders had another evolutionary innovation that would prove crucial to spider success: venom. Now, venom might seem like an obvious predator adaptation, but the way spiders use venom is actually quite unique. Most venomous animals use their toxins primarily as weapons, but spiders had discovered something far more sophisticated. Spider venom serves a dual purpose that showcases the incredible efficiency of their hunting strategy. First, like other venomous predators, spiders use their toxins to subdue prey. Their venom contains powerful neurotoxins that can paralyze or kill their targets almost instantly. But here's the brilliant part. Spider venom also contains digestive enzymes that begin breaking down the prey's internal tissues immediately upon injection. This process, called external digestion, allows spiders to essentially pre-digest their meals before consuming them. Since spiders can't chew solid food like other predators, they inject their prey with venom, wait for the internal tissues to liquefy, and then suck out the nutritious soup that remains. It's like having a built-in food processor that also serves as a weapon. Think about how revolutionary this adaptation was. Other predators had to tear apart their prey, potentially losing valuable nutrients in the process and expending energy on mechanical digestion. Spiders had evolved a system that maximized nutrient extraction while minimizing energy expenditure. They could capture prey, inject it with venom, and then simply wait for their meal to prepare itself. The combination of silk-based hunting strategies and sophisticated venom systems made mesothelial spiders incredibly successful predators. They dominated their ecological niches for millions of years, establishing many of the fundamental hunting techniques that modern spiders still use today. But success in evolution is often temporary, and even the most well-adapted creatures must face environmental challenges that test their survival abilities. As we'll see in the next part of our journey, spiders were about to encounter one of the most devastating events in Earth's history, a catastrophe so severe that it would reshape life on our planet forever. The stage was set for the ultimate test of spider adaptability, and what happened next would determine whether these early innovators would join the countless species that vanished into extinction, or whether their evolutionary innovations were robust enough to carry them through the darkest chapter in our planet's biological history. The Permian period was drawing to a close, and life on Earth was about to face its greatest challenge. Around 250 million years ago, our planet experienced what scientists call the Great Dying, an extinction event so catastrophic that it makes the asteroid impact that killed the dinosaurs look like a minor hiccup. This wasn't just another environmental challenge. This was biological Armageddon. Picture the scale of this devastation. Over 80% of all marine species simply vanished. On land, the situation was equally dire, with roughly 70% of all terrestrial vertebrates going extinct. Even insects, which are typically the ultimate survivors in extinction scenarios, suffered massive losses. Entire ecosystems collapsed as volcanic eruptions in what is now Siberia pumped toxic gases and ash into the atmosphere for thousands of years. The cause of this extinction was a perfect storm of environmental disasters. Massive volcanic activity triggered dramatic climate change, ocean acidification, and global warming that pushed most life forms beyond their survival limits. Forests died, food chains collapsed, and the very chemistry of the oceans changed in ways that made survival nearly impossible for most marine creatures. So, where were spiders during this apocalyptic event? Here's where their story becomes absolutely remarkable. While countless other predator groups were being wiped off the face of the earth, spiders not only survived the Great Dying, they actually emerged from it stronger than before. Their evolutionary innovations, particularly their energy-efficient hunting strategies and versatile silk production, proved to be exactly the right adaptations for surviving in a world where resources were scarce and competition was deadly. Think about why spiders were so well equipped for this crisis. Their ambush hunting strategies meant they could survive on minimal food intake for extended periods. While active hunters starved as prey became scarce, spiders could simply wait in their burrows, conserving energy until opportunities presented themselves. Their ability to create protective shelters from silk gave them refuge from the harsh environmental conditions that killed less adaptable creatures. But survival was just the beginning. In the aftermath of the Great Dying, Earth's ecosystems were essentially reset. Ecological niches that had been occupied for millions of years were suddenly empty, creating unprecedented opportunities for the creatures that had managed to survive. Spiders were perfectly positioned to exploit these vacant niches. And what happened next represents one of the most explosive periods of diversification in their evolutionary history. As new ecosystems began to develop around the world, spiders started filling roles that had never existed before. They spread into new habitats, developed new hunting techniques, and began evolving into forms that would eventually give rise to some of the most recognizable spider groups we know today. This period of rapid evolutionary change set the stage for the emergence of megalomorphs, the group that includes modern tarantulas and funnel web spiders. Megalomorphs represent a fascinating branch in spider evolution. These creatures took the basic spider body plan and scaled it up dramatically. We're talking about spiders with robust, heavily muscled bodies, thick, powerful legs, and fangs that pointed straight down like twin daggers. Their entire anatomy was built for power rather than finesse, making them the heavyweight champions of the spider world. But here's what makes megalomorphs so interesting from an evolutionary perspective. They represent a completely different approach to spider predation. While their Mesotheli ancestors had perfected the art of passive ambush hunting, megalomorphs developed strategies that combined patience with raw physical power. Most species still used burrows as their primary hunting bases, but these weren't the simple holes that earlier spiders had dug. Megalomorph burrows were architectural marvels. These spiders constructed elaborate underground complexes with multiple chambers, silk-lined walls, and ingenious trapdoor systems that would make any engineer jealous. The entrance to a typical megalomorph burrow was covered by a perfectly camouflaged door made from silk and debris, hinged with silk fibers that allowed it to open and close with incredible precision. The hunting strategy was pure ambush perfection. A megalomorph would position itself just inside its burrow, holding the trapdoor slightly ajar with its front legs. When vibrations indicated that prey was approaching, the spider would burst through the door with explosive force, grab its victim, and drag it back into the burrow before other predators could interfere. The entire attack sequence took less than a second. What's remarkable about this hunting style is how it combines the energy efficiency of passive hunting with the decisive power needed to take down larger prey. Earlier, spiders had been limited to catching insects and other small arthropods, but megalomorphs could successfully hunt much bigger targets. Some species could take down small vertebrates like frogs, lizards, and even young birds. This ability to hunt larger prey opened up entirely new ecological niches for spiders. They were no longer just insectivores competing with other small predators. They had become significant predators in their own right, capable of influencing entire food webs. The evolutionary success of this approach is evident in the fact that megalomorphs are still thriving today, with tarantulas being among the most recognizable spiders on the planet. But while megalomorphs were perfecting the art of power-based predation, another group of spiders was taking a completely different evolutionary path. During the Triassic period, around 200 million years ago, a new lineage emerged that would eventually become the most diverse and successful group of spiders ever to evolve. The araneomorphs. Araneomorphs represent what you might call the high-tech approach to spider evolution. Instead of relying on size and strength like their mygalomorph cousins, these spiders invested in precision engineering and chemical warfare. Their fangs pointed diagonally rather than straight down, giving them better leverage and more precise control when injecting venom. Their spinnerets became even more sophisticated, allowing for incredibly fine control over silk production. But the real game changer was their venom. While earlier spiders had developed toxins that were effective but relatively simple, arachniomorphs began evolving venoms of extraordinary complexity and specificity. We're talking about chemical cocktails containing dozens of different compounds, each designed to target specific aspects of their prey's nervous system. Some arachniomorph venoms contained neurotoxins that caused instant paralysis. Others included compounds that disrupted nerve signal transmission, essentially scrambling their victim's nervous system. Still others contained enzymes that began breaking down cellular structures immediately upon injection, turning the prey's own body into a pre-digested meal. This chemical sophistication gave arachniomorphs a massive advantage over their competitors. They could take down prey much larger than themselves using minimal physical effort. A tiny arachniomorph spider could inject a grasshopper 10 times its size with venom and watch it become completely incapacitated within seconds. This efficiency meant they could hunt successfully in environments where larger, more physically powerful predators struggled to find adequate food sources. The evolutionary success of this approach becomes clear when you consider the numbers. Today, arachniomorphs make up over 90% of all spider species. They've colonized virtually every terrestrial habitat on Earth, from tropical rainforests to Arctic tundra, from desert caves to urban environments. Their chemical approach to predation has proven to be one of the most adaptable and successful hunting strategies in the animal kingdom. But the true revolutionary moment in arachniomorph evolution was still to come. During the Jurassic period, while massive dinosaurs were dominating terrestrial ecosystems, these sophisticated spiders were quietly working on an innovation that would change predation forever. They were developing the ability to construct complex, three-dimensional hunting structures that could capture flying prey with unprecedented efficiency. The evolution of web building represents one of the most significant technological advances in natural history. Think about what this innovation meant. For the first time, a predator could construct a hunting device that worked independently of the hunter's physical presence. A spider could build a web, hide nearby, and let the structure do the work of capturing prey while the spider conserved energy for other activities. This wasn't just a new hunting technique. It was the biological equivalent of inventing tools. Spiders had learned to extend their predatory capabilities beyond the limitations of their own bodies, creating external structures that multiplied their hunting effectiveness exponentially. A single web could capture multiple prey items simultaneously, something impossible with traditional ambush or pursuit hunting strategies. The timing of this innovation was perfect. During the Cretaceous period, flying insects were undergoing their own evolutionary explosion. New species of beetles, flies, wasps, and other aerial insects were diversifying rapidly, creating an abundant food source that was largely inaccessible to ground-based predators. Traditional hunting methods were inadequate for capturing these agile, fast-moving targets that could simply fly away from danger. Spiders responded to this challenge by taking their hunting strategies airborne. Instead of waiting on the ground for prey to stumble into range, they began constructing their traps in the three-dimensional space where flying insects traveled. This was evolutionary problem-solving at its finest, with spiders essentially redesigning their entire hunting approach to exploit a new ecological opportunity. The first web-building spiders created structures that seem almost primitive compared to modern spider webs, but they were revolutionary for their time. These early webs were simple affairs, basically sheets of silk strung between vegetation that would entangle flying insects through sheer chance. But even these basic structures were incredibly effective, allowing spiders to capture prey that would have been impossible to catch using traditional methods. What makes this innovation even more remarkable is how quickly spiders began diversifying their web designs to exploit different niches within the aerial hunting ecosystem. Some species developed orb webs, those classic circular structures that most people associate with spiders. These geometric marvels were precisely engineered to intercept the flight paths of insects, with sticky capture spirals that would hold struggling prey while the spider approached for the kill. Other species created what we now call tangle webs, chaotic-looking structures that were actually sophisticated three-dimensional mazes designed to confuse and trap crawling insects that ventured into the web's vicinity. These irregular webs filled a completely different ecological niche, targeting ground-based prey that might climb onto vegetation where the webs were anchored. The diversification of web types represents one of the most impressive examples of adaptive radiation in evolutionary history. Within a relatively short geological time span, spiders had developed dozens of different web architectures, each optimized for capturing specific types of prey in specific environments. This explosion of hunting innovations allowed araneomorphs to dominate aerial predation niches in ways that no other predator group has ever achieved. But just as spiders were reaching new heights of evolutionary sophistication, another cosmic catastrophe was about to test their survival abilities once again. The asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs was approaching, and with it would come another mass extinction event that would reshape life on Earth. The question was, would spiders' remarkable adaptability be enough to carry them through yet another global catastrophe? The answer would come 66 million years ago, when a massive asteroid slammed into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula with the force of billions of nuclear bombs. The impact triggered global wildfires, tsunamis that reshaped coastlines, and a nuclear winter that plunged the planet into darkness for months. This was the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event, and it would prove to be one of the most decisive moments in spider evolutionary history. When that 6-mile-wide space rock hit Earth, it didn't just kill the dinosaurs. It obliterated 75% of all plant and animal species, fundamentally altering every ecosystem on the planet. Forests burned to ash, food chains collapsed overnight, and the very composition of the atmosphere changed in ways that made survival nearly impossible for most large animals. Yay! But here's where spiders demonstrated their evolutionary genius once again. While massive reptiles and countless other species were being driven to extinction, spiders not only survived this cosmic catastrophe, they actually thrived in its aftermath. Their small size, low metabolic requirements, and incredibly versatile hunting strategies made them perfectly adapted for life in a post-apocalyptic world where resources were scarce and environmental conditions were harsh. Think about the advantages that spiders possessed during this global crisis. Their ability to enter extended periods of dormancy meant they could survive months without food while larger predators starved. Their silk-based shelters provided protection from the toxic ash and debris that filled the atmosphere. Most importantly, their diverse hunting strategies meant they could exploit whatever food sources managed to survive the extinction event. While other predator groups were locked into specific hunting methods that became useless in the changed world, spiders could adapt their behavior almost instantly. Web builders could switch to ground hunting when flying insects became scarce. Ambush predators could modify their burrow construction to deal with new soil conditions. Active hunters could adjust their prey preferences based on whatever creatures managed to survive in their local ecosystems. This behavioral flexibility, combined with their already proven ability to survive mass extinctions, positioned spiders perfectly for what would become the most explosive period of diversification in their entire evolutionary history. As the Cenozoic era began and ecosystems started recovering from the asteroid impact, spiders were ready to colonize every available niche with unprecedented creativity and success. The post-extinction world was a land of incredible opportunity for creatures clever enough to exploit it. Flowering plants were beginning their takeover of terrestrial ecosystems, co-evolving with an explosion of pollinating insects that created entirely new food webs. Bees, butterflies, beetles, and countless other flying insects were diversifying at an incredible rate, providing abundant prey for any predator smart enough to catch them. Spiders responded to this bonanza with innovations that border on the fantastic. They began developing hunting strategies so specialized and sophisticated that they read like science fiction. Some species evolved to become perfect mimics, using their bodies as living camouflage to blend seamlessly into flower petals, where they could ambush unsuspecting pollinators. Take crab spiders, for example. These remarkable hunters developed the ability to change their body coloration to match whatever flower they were hunting from. A crab spider could position itself on a white daisy and become virtually invisible to approaching bees. When a pollinator landed to collect nectar, the spider would strike with lightning speed, injecting venom that would subdue its victim before other potential prey could be warned away. But that's just the beginning of spider deception. Some species took mimicry to absolutely mind-bending levels. Bola spiders developed one of the most sophisticated hunting strategies in the animal kingdom, essentially becoming chemical warfare specialists. These spiders learned to produce and release pheromones that perfectly mimic the mating sense of female moths. Picture this incredible hunting scenario. A male moth, driven by millions of years of evolutionary programming to seek out mates, detects what he believes is the irresistible scent of a receptive female. He follows the chemical trail through the darkness, anticipating reproduction, only to fly directly into a spider's trap. The bola spider swings a silk line tipped with sticky glue, snagging the moth out of midair like a biological lasso. What makes this strategy even more remarkable is its precision. Bola spiders don't just produce generic moth pheromones. Different species have evolved to mimic the exact chemical signatures of specific moth species, allowing them to target particular prey with incredible accuracy. It's like having a customized hunting technique for every item on the menu. These examples represent just a tiny fraction of the hunting innovations that spiders developed during their Cenozoic diversification. Across the globe, different species were evolving solutions to predation challenges that showcase the incredible plasticity of spider evolution. Some developed techniques for hunting underwater, creating air bubbles from silk that allowed them to pursue aquatic prey. Others learned to hunt in total darkness, using vibration-sensitive hairs that could detect the movement of prey from remarkable distances. Perhaps most impressively, many spider species developed techniques for long-distance travel that would make any explorer jealous. Despite being flightless, spiders conquered the challenge of dispersal using one of the most elegant solutions in nature: ballooning. Young spiders, particularly those from smaller species, learn to release strands of silk into moving air currents and use them like parachutes or glider wings. These tiny aeronauts can travel hundreds of miles on wind currents, crossing oceans and mountain ranges to colonize new territories. Scientists have discovered ballooning spiders thousands of feet above the Earth's surface, riding jet streams like microscopic passengers on invisible highways. This dispersal method allowed spiders to spread their genetic lineages across the globe with remarkable efficiency, explaining how they managed to colonize virtually every terrestrial habitat on the planet. The success of these dispersal techniques becomes obvious when you consider spider distribution today. From tropical rainforests to Arctic islands, from desert caves to urban skyscrapers, spiders have established thriving populations in environments that would challenge much larger and more obviously adaptable animals. Their ability to travel vast distances as juveniles, combined with their incredible versatility once they reach new habitats, has made them one of the most cosmopolitan groups of predators in natural history. But spider innovation during the Cenozoic wasn't limited to hunting and dispersal strategies. They also began developing social behaviors that rival those of much more famous social insects. While most people think of spiders as solitary creatures, numerous species evolved complex cooperative behaviors that allowed them to tackle prey and environmental challenges that would be impossible for individual hunters. Some orb weaver species learned to construct communal webs that could span entire trees, creating massive aerial nets operated by dozens or even hundreds of individual spiders working in coordination. These cooperative structures could capture prey items far too large for any single spider to handle, allowing the colony to exploit food sources that were completely inaccessible to solitary hunters. Other species developed even more sophisticated social systems, with different individuals specializing in different roles within the colony. Some spiders became dedicated web builders, others focused on prey capture, and still others specialized in caring for the colony's eggs and young. These division of labor systems allowed spider colonies to achieve levels of efficiency and success that approach those of ant and bee societies. The evolution of these social behaviors represents one of the most remarkable aspects of spider diversification. Remember, these are creatures whose ancestors were primarily solitary ambush predators. The fact that they could evolve complex cooperative behaviors within a relatively short evolutionary time span demonstrates just how flexible and adaptable their basic body plan and nervous system architecture really are. As spider diversity exploded during the Cenozoic, different lineages began specializing for increasingly specific ecological niches. Some species became extreme specialists, evolving to hunt only particular types of prey in very specific microhabitats. Others became incredible generalists, developing hunting repertoires so diverse that they could survive in almost any environment where arthropod prey was available. This specialization versus generalization dynamic created an evolutionary arms race that drove spider innovation to even greater heights. Prey species began developing better defenses against spider predation, forcing spiders to evolve more sophisticated hunting techniques. Meanwhile, competition between different spider species pushed each lineage to become more efficient and effective in their particular ecological niche. The result was an explosion of spider diversity that continues to amaze researchers today. Modern taxonomists estimate that there are over 50,000 described spider species, but many experts believe the true number could be twice that or even higher. New species are being discovered regularly, particularly in tropical regions where spider diversity reaches its absolute peak. But this incredible success story was about to face its greatest challenge yet. As human civilization began expanding across the globe, spiders would encounter environmental changes more rapid and dramatic than anything they had faced in their entire evolutionary history. The question was whether hundreds of millions of years of evolutionary innovation would be enough to help them adapt to a world increasingly dominated by a single, incredibly powerful primate species. The Industrial Revolution and the expansion of human agriculture began altering spider habitats at an unprecedented pace. Forests that had existed for thousands of years were cleared in decades. Wetlands were drained, grasslands were converted to farmland, and urban environments expanded across landscapes that had supported diverse spider communities for millennia. At the same time, humans began using pesticides and other chemicals that didn't just target agricultural pests, but also eliminated many of the insects that spiders depended on for food. DDT and other broad-spectrum insecticides devastated arthropod populations across vast regions, creating food deserts where spiders struggled to find adequate prey to sustain their populations. Some spider species proved remarkably vulnerable adapt to these rapid environmental changes. Research studies began documenting dramatic population declines in species that had been common for centuries. European garden spiders, once abundant across their native range, saw their populations crash to less than 1% of historical levels in many regions. Specialized species that depended on particular types of habitat or prey were hit especially hard, as their ecological requirements became impossible to meet in human-modified landscapes. The situation seemed dire for many spider lineages, and conservation biologists began warning that we might be witnessing the beginning of a major extinction event for these ancient predators. After surviving asteroid impacts and volcanic catastrophes that wiped out most other animal groups, were spiders finally meeting their match in the form of human environmental impact? But just as they had done countless times before in their evolutionary history, spiders began demonstrating their remarkable adaptability in the face of new challenges. While some species struggled with human-dominated landscapes, others found ways not just to survive, but to thrive in environments that would have been unimaginable to their prehistoric ancestors. Urban environments, initially seen as biological deserts hostile to most wildlife, began revealing themselves as potential spider habitat. The complex, three-dimensional structure of cities, with their countless nooks, crannies, and artificial surfaces, actually provided numerous opportunities for web-building species. Street lights and building illumination attracted flying insects, creating concentrated food sources that enterprising spiders could exploit. Some species became so well adapted to urban life that they now rarely exist anywhere else. American house spiders, for example, have become specialists at living in the corners and crevices of human buildings, constructing their webs in attics, basements, and storage areas where they feed on the various insects that inevitably invade human dwellings. These spiders have essentially become our unwitting partners in pest control, consuming flies, mosquitoes, and other insects that we consider nuisances. Other species learn to exploit the artificial lighting that humans installed throughout urban and suburban environments. Orb weavers began positioning their webs around street lights, porch lights, and illuminated signs, taking advantage of the fact that these light sources attracted flying insects like massive biological magnets. What had initially seemed like habitat destruction was actually creating new ecological opportunities for spiders clever enough to exploit them. The story of spider adaptation to human environments showcases one of the most important lessons from their entire evolutionary history. Flexibility and innovation have always been the keys to their success. From their earliest ancestors, who learned to produce silk, through their survival of multiple mass extinctions, to their current adaptation to human-dominated landscapes, spiders have consistently demonstrated an almost supernatural ability to find solutions to environmental challenges that destroy less adaptable creatures. This adaptability stems from the fundamental characteristics that have defined spider evolution from the very beginning. Their small size and low metabolic requirements mean they can survive in marginal habitats where larger predators cannot. Their diverse hunting strategies allow them to exploit whatever prey sources are available in any given environment. Most importantly, Their relatively simple but incredibly flexible body plan can be modified through evolution to meet almost any ecological challenge. As we look at spiders today, we're seeing the culmination of nearly 400 million years of evolutionary refinement. These creatures have survived ice ages and global warming events, asteroid impacts, and volcanic catastrophes, the rise and fall of countless other animal groups, and now the dramatic environmental changes associated with human civilization. Through it all, they have not just persisted, but continued to diversify and innovate in ways that constantly surprise researchers. The story of spider evolution represents one of the most remarkable examples of long-term evolutionary success in natural history. From humble beginnings as tiny proto-spiders crawling through ancient forests, they have become one of the most diverse and successful groups of predators ever to evolve. Their innovations in silk production, venom chemistry, web construction, and hunting strategies have established them as permanent fixtures in virtually every terrestrial ecosystem on Earth. But perhaps most importantly, their evolutionary story is far from over. Even as we speak, spiders are continuing to adapt and evolve in response to changing environmental conditions. New species are being discovered regularly, and researchers are constantly uncovering new examples of spider innovation and adaptation. The next chapter in their evolutionary story is being written right now, and if their past performance is any indication, it's going to be absolutely incredible. The innovations we've witnessed so far represent just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to spider evolutionary mastery. As we dive deeper into their modern success story, we encounter hunting strategies so sophisticated they seem almost alien in their ingenuity. These aren't just predators anymore. They've become biological engineers, chemical warfare specialists, and masters of deception operating at levels that would make human strategists jealous. Let's talk about what happened when spiders truly began pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible in nature. During the height of their Cenozoic diversification, some lineages developed hunting techniques that completely redefined our understanding of predator-prey relationships. We're talking about strategies so specialized that individual spider species essentially became living weapon systems, each perfectly calibrated for specific types of prey. Consider the absolutely mind-bending evolution of jumping spiders. These tiny acrobats took a completely different approach from their web-building cousins, developing visual systems that rivaled those of much larger predators. We're talking about creatures smaller than your thumbnail that possess vision so acute they can spot and track individual prey items from distances that seem impossible given their size. But here's where it gets truly incredible. Jumping spiders didn't just develop amazing eyesight. They evolved complex behavioral repertoires that include elaborate courtship displays, territorial behaviors, and hunting strategies that involve planning and problem-solving. These spiders can actually think through hunting scenarios, plotting multi-step approaches to capture prey that requires them to move out of direct sight of their target and approach from unexpected angles. Watch a jumping spider hunt, and you're witnessing something that challenges our basic assumptions about invertebrate intelligence. These creatures will study their prey for extended periods, apparently calculating distance, trajectory, and timing before making their leap. They can adjust their jumping angle mid-flight and have been observed using trial and error learning to improve their hunting success over time. What makes this even more remarkable is that jumping spiders developed these cognitive abilities independently from vertebrate predators. We're looking at convergent evolution of intelligence, where completely different evolutionary lineages arrived at similar solutions for complex hunting challenges. The fact that creatures with brains smaller than pinheads can exhibit such sophisticated behavior suggests that intelligence might be far more widespread in nature than we previously imagined. Meanwhile, other spider lineages were taking the chemical warfare approach to absolutely staggering extremes. The venom evolution we discussed earlier was just the beginning. Some modern spiders have developed toxin cocktails so precisely calibrated that they can target specific physiological systems in their prey with surgical precision. Take the case of certain orb weavers that have evolved venoms specifically designed for different types of prey. These spiders can actually modify their venom composition based on what they're hunting. When capturing flying insects, they inject neurotoxins that cause immediate paralysis, preventing their prey from damaging the web during death struggles. But when the same spider captures crawling insects, it uses a different venom formula that works more slowly, allowing the prey to become entangled more thoroughly before succumbing. This level of biochemical sophistication represents millions of years of evolutionary fine-tuning. Each component of these venom cocktails serves a specific purpose, and the spiders have essentially become living pharmaceutical laboratories, producing custom drug combinations for every hunting scenario they encounter. But perhaps the most shocking development in modern spider evolution is the emergence of social behaviors that completely shatter our preconceptions about these supposedly solitary predators. While most people think of spiders as cannibalistic loners, numerous species have independently evolved cooperative strategies that rival the most sophisticated insect societies. Some species of social spiders have developed colonies that can contain thousands of individuals working together in ways that seem almost impossible, given their evolutionary starting point. These colonies construct communal webs that can cover entire trees, creating massive, three-dimensional hunting structures operated by coordinated teams of specialists. Within these colonies, individual spiders take on specific roles that maximize the efficiency of the entire group. Some individuals become dedicated web architects, spending their entire lives maintaining and expanding the colony's capture structures. Others specialize in prey detection and capture, developing enhanced sensory abilities that allow them to coordinate group attacks on large prey items. Most remarkably, some social spider species have evolved individuals that essentially sacrifice their own reproductive potential to serve as colony defenders or caretakers. These sterile workers, similar to those found in ant and bee colonies, represent one of the most extraordinary examples of altruistic behavior in the spider world. The evolution of these social systems required spiders to overcome some of the most fundamental aspects of their ancestral behavior. Remember, these are descendants of creatures that were primarily cannibalistic ambush predators. The fact that they could evolve mechanisms to suppress their predatory instincts toward colony mates, develop complex communication systems, and coordinate their behavior for group benefit represents one of the most dramatic behavioral transformations in evolutionary history. These social spiders have achieved things that would be impossible for solitary individuals. Some colonies can capture prey items hundreds of times larger than any individual spider, including small birds, bats, and even occasionally small mammals that become entangled in their massive communal webs. The coordinated attack strategies these spiders employ during group hunts involve levels of tactical coordination that seem almost military in their precision. But the innovations don't stop there. As spider diversity continued exploding during the Cenozoic, some lineages began developing abilities that seemed to bend the laws of physics. We're talking about spiders that learned to hunt underwater while remaining fundamentally air-breathing creatures, species that developed techniques for gliding through the air despite lacking wings, and hunters that mastered the art of vibration-based communication across distances that seem impossible for such small creatures. Diving bell spiders represent one of the most extraordinary examples of evolutionary problem-solving in the animal kingdom. These remarkable creatures figured out how to create portable air supplies that allow them to live and hunt completely underwater. They construct silk bubbles that they fill with air carried down from the surface, essentially creating biological submarines that can be refilled and maintained indefinitely. But here's what makes this adaptation truly mind-blowing. These spiders didn't just solve the problem of underwater respiration. They developed entire hunting strategies specifically designed for aquatic environments. They can detect the vibrations of swimming prey through water, launch surprise attacks from their air-filled lairs, and even reproduce underwater using their silk bubble technology. The physics involved in maintaining these underwater air bubbles is incredibly complex. The spiders have to account for water pressure, gas diffusion rates, and the structural integrity of their silk under aquatic conditions. Yet they've mastered these challenges so completely that some species spend their entire lives underwater, only occasionally visiting the surface to refresh their air supplies. On the opposite end of the spectrum, other spider species were perfecting the art of aerial travel. The ballooning behavior we mentioned earlier evolved into incredibly sophisticated dispersal strategies that allow spiders to essentially fly without wings. Some species can control their altitude and direction during ballooning flights by manipulating their silk strands and body position relative to air currents. Recent research has revealed that ballooning spiders can detect electrical fields in the atmosphere and use these fields to launch themselves into flight even when wind conditions seem inadequate. They're essentially surfing on the electrical charge differentials that exist between the Earth's surface and the upper atmosphere, turning themselves into biological aircraft powered by natural electromagnetic phenomena. This discovery has completely revolutionized our understanding of how spiders manage to colonize remote islands, cross large bodies of water, and establish populations in seemingly inaccessible locations. They're not just passive passengers on wind currents. They are active pilots using environmental cues that we're only beginning to understand. The sensory abilities that spiders develop to support these diverse lifestyles represent another area where their evolution reached almost supernatural levels of sophistication. Many species can detect vibrations so subtle that they can distinguish between the footsteps of different prey species, identify the sex and size of potential mates from considerable distances, and even detect the approach of predators through minute changes in air pressure. Some wolf spiders have evolved the ability to detect polarized light patterns that are invisible to human eyes, allowing them to navigate using celestial cues even on overcast days. Others have developed sensitivity to magnetic fields, essentially giving them biological compass systems that help them maintain directional orientation during long-distance travels. Web-building spiders have pushed vibration detection to absolutely incredible extremes. The webs of some species function as massive sensory networks that can provide detailed information about everything happening within their vicinity. A spider can determine the size, struggle intensity, and exact location of trapped prey just from the vibration patterns transmitted through its web's silk strands. But they've taken this even further. Some species have learned to manipulate the tension and structure of their webs to create what are essentially biological musical instruments. By adjusting the tightness of specific silk strands, they can tune their webs to resonate at frequencies that provide optimal information about different types of prey or environmental conditions. These sensory innovations allowed spiders to exploit environmental niches that were essentially invisible to other predators. While most hunters rely on visual or chemical cues to locate prey, spiders develop the ability to read the mechanical signatures of their environment, detecting opportunities and threats through subtle vibrations, electrical fields, and other physical phenomena that most animals cannot perceive. The cumulative effect of all these evolutionary innovations has been to create predators that operate on multiple sensory levels simultaneously. A modern spider isn't just hunting with its eyes or waiting passively for prey to stumble into range. It's actively monitoring its environment through multiple sensory channels, processing complex information about potential opportunities, and making sophisticated decisions about when, where, and how to strike. This multimodal sensory processing gives spiders enormous advantages over both their prey and their competitors. They can detect hunting opportunities that other predators miss entirely, avoid threats that would be invisible to less sensitive creatures, and coordinate their behavior with environmental conditions in ways that maximize their success, while minimizing their energy expenditure as human influence on global ecosystems continued expanding. These sensory abilities became crucial for spider survival in rapidly changing environments. Species that could quickly detect and respond to new threats, identify novel food sources, and adapt their behavior to altered habitat conditions were the ones that thrived in human-modified landscapes. Urban environments initially seen as hostile to most wildlife, actually provided spiders with unprecedented opportunities to exploit their sensory capabilities. The complex acoustic environment of cities, filled with mechanical vibrations, electrical fields, and artificial light sources, created new sensory landscapes that spiders could learn to navigate and exploit. Some urban spider populations have been observed modifying their web construction techniques to take advantage of the vibrations transmitted through building structures. They position their webs near air conditioning units, elevator shafts, and other mechanical systems that generate regular vibrations, using these artificial cues to enhance their prey detection capabilities. Others have learned to exploit the electromagnetic fields generated by electrical systems, using power lines and building wiring as navigation aids that help them locate optimal web-building sites. The artificial lighting that humans install throughout urban environments has created entirely new hunting opportunities for species that can position their webs to intercept the insects attracted to these light sources. But perhaps most remarkably, some urban spider populations have begun showing signs of behavioral adaptation that suggest they're learning to distinguish between different types of human activity. Spiders living in buildings have been observed adjusting their activity patterns to avoid peak human traffic periods, emerging to hunt during quiet hours when they're less likely to have their webs disturbed. These behavioral adaptations are happening on timescales that are incredibly rapid from an evolutionary perspective. We're witnessing real-time adaptation as spider populations learn to exploit the opportunities and avoid the dangers of human-dominated environments. This behavioral plasticity, combined with their already impressive sensory abilities, has allowed many spider species not just to survive human environmental impact, but to thrive in ways that would have been impossible in natural ecosystems. The story of spider adaptation to urban environments represents a perfect example of how their evolutionary innovations continue paying dividends in novel situations. The same sensory abilities that allowed them to detect prey in ancient forests now help them navigate the complex sensory landscape of modern cities. The behavioral flexibility that helped them survive mass extinctions now allows them to adjust to the rapid environmental changes associated with human development. Looking at modern spider populations, we can see the culmination of nearly 400 million years of evolutionary refinement. These creatures have developed solutions to predation challenges that span every conceivable environmental condition, from the deepest caves to the highest mountain peaks, from scorching deserts to frozen tundra, from pristine wilderness to the heart of major cities. Their success stems from a combination of factors that make them almost uniquely adaptable among animal groups. Their small size and low metabolic requirements allow them to survive in marginal habitats where larger predators cannot persist. Their diverse hunting strategies give them access to food sources that other predators cannot exploit. Their sophisticated sensory systems provide them with information about their environment that most other creatures cannot detect. But perhaps most importantly, their evolutionary history has equipped them with a level of behavioral flexibility that allows them to respond rapidly to environmental changes. Unlike many animal groups that are locked into specific ecological niches by millions of years of specialization, spiders have maintained the ability to modify their behavior, hunting strategies, and habitat preferences in response to new challenges and opportunities. This flexibility has made them incredibly resilient in the face of environmental disruption. While many other predator groups have suffered dramatic population declines due to habitat destruction, climate change, and other human impacts, spider populations have generally remained stable or even increased in many regions. In fact, some researchers argue that spiders may actually be benefiting from certain aspects of human environmental modification. The fragmentation of natural habitats has created edge environments that many spider species prefer. Agricultural practices have eliminated many of the larger predators that compete with spiders for prey. Urban environments have created new habitat types that some spider species have learned to exploit more effectively than their natural competitors. The result is that spiders today represent one of the most successful and diverse groups of predators in natural history. They've achieved a level of ecological dominance that few other animal groups can match, occupying predatory niches in virtually every terrestrial ecosystem on Earth. But their story is far from over. Even as we speak, spiders continue to evolve and adapt in response to changing environmental conditions. Climate change is shifting the geographical ranges of many species, creating new opportunities for hybridization and genetic exchange between previously isolated populations. Urban environments continue to expand, providing novel habitats that spider populations are learning to exploit in increasingly sophisticated ways. New spider species are being discovered regularly, particularly in tropical regions where biodiversity reaches its peak. Many of these newly discovered species exhibit hunting strategies and behavioral adaptations that push the boundaries of what we thought was possible in spider evolution. Some display levels of cognitive sophistication that challenge our understanding of invertebrate intelligence. Others have developed chemical or physical adaptations that seem almost alien in their ingenuity. The ongoing discovery of new spider species and new examples of spider innovation suggests that we're still only scratching the surface of understanding their evolutionary potential. After nearly 400 million years of continuous evolutionary refinement, spiders continue to surprise researchers with new examples of biological creativity and problem-solving ability. Perhaps most excitingly, modern technology is allowing us to study spider behavior and physiology in ways that were impossible just a few decades ago. High-speed cameras reveal the incredible precision of their hunting strikes. Electron microscopy shows the nanoscale engineering of their silk fibers. Genetic analysis allows us to trace their evolutionary relationships with unprecedented accuracy. These technological advances are revealing that spider evolution is even more remarkable than we previously imagined. The silk they produce exhibits mechanical properties that exceed those of many synthetic materials. Their venom compounds show promise for medical applications ranging from pain management to neurological disorders. Their sensory systems inspired new approaches to robotics and artificial intelligence. In many ways, spiders represent one of nature's greatest success stories. They've survived every major extinction event in Earth's history, adapted to virtually every terrestrial environment on the planet, and continue to evolve new solutions to ecological challenges that would stump human engineers. Their evolutionary innovations have given them tools and capabilities that seem almost magical in their sophistication. But what makes their story truly extraordinary is that it demonstrates the incredible potential of evolutionary processes when given sufficient time and environmental pressure. Starting from humble beginnings as tiny proto-spiders crawling through ancient forests, natural selection has crafted creatures that represent pinnacles of biological engineering in multiple different domains simultaneously. They are master chemists producing venom cocktails of incredible complexity and precision. They are expert engineers constructing structures from silk that exhibit mechanical properties exceeding those of steel. They are sophisticated hunters, employing strategies that range from patient ambush to active pursuit to elaborate deception. They are sensory specialists, detecting environmental cues that are invisible to most other creatures. Most remarkably, they have achieved all of this while maintaining the behavioral flexibility that allows them to continue adapting to new challenges and opportunities. Unlike many highly specialized creatures that become evolutionary dead ends, spiders have retained the ability to modify their behavior and exploit new ecological niches as environmental conditions change. This combination of sophisticated specialization and maintained flexibility represents one of the most successful evolutionary strategies ever developed. It has allowed spiders to persist through environmental changes that eliminated countless other animal groups, while simultaneously continuing to diversify and innovate in response to new opportunities. As we look toward the future, spiders provide us with a perfect example of how evolution can produce solutions to complex challenges that exceed anything human technology has achieved. Their silk production, venom chemistry, sensory systems, and behavioral flexibility continue to inspire new approaches to materials, science, medicine, robotics, and artificial intelligence. But perhaps most importantly, their evolutionary story demonstrates the incredible creative potential of natural processes when given sufficient time to operate. The innovations that spiders have developed over hundreds of millions of years represent a library of biological solutions to fundamental problems of survival, reproduction, and environmental adaptation. Understanding spider evolution gives us insights not just into the history of life on Earth, but into the fundamental principles that govern how complex biological systems develop and persist over geological timescales. Their story shows us that evolution is not just a process of gradual change, but a creative force capable of producing innovations that seem almost impossibly sophisticated. The fact that such incredible complexity and capability can emerge from simple evolutionary processes operating over extended periods provides us with both humility about our place in the natural world and inspiration about the potential for biological innovation. Spiders remind us that nature is far more creative and resourceful than we often give it credit for, and that the solutions to many of our technological challenges may already exist in the biological world, waiting for us to discover and understand them. As we continue studying these remarkable creatures, we're constantly discovering new aspects of their biology that challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of what's possible in evolutionary development. Each new discovery adds another chapter to what is already one of the most remarkable success stories in the history of life on Earth. The evolution of spiders represents a masterclass in biological innovation, demonstrating how natural selection can craft solutions to complex challenges that exceed anything human ingenuity has produced. From their humble beginnings as simple proto-spiders to their current status as some of the most sophisticated predators on the planet, their journey through evolutionary time showcases the incredible creative potential of life itself. And this is just the beginning. As environmental conditions continue changing and new challenges emerge, spiders will undoubtedly continue evolving new solutions, new strategies, and new innovations that will add yet more chapters to their already incredible evolutionary story. The next phase of spider evolution is being written right now, and if their past performance is any indication, it's going to be absolutely extraordinary. But even as spiders were conquering terrestrial ecosystems with unprecedented success, their most revolutionary breakthrough was still ahead of them. What happened next would fundamentally change not just how spiders hunted, but how predation itself worked on our planet. We're talking about an innovation so groundbreaking that it essentially created an entirely new dimension of ecological interaction. The breakthrough came during the Cretaceous period, roughly 120 million years ago, when flying insects were experiencing their own evolutionary explosion. Picture the skies of that ancient world. Beetles with iridescent shells catching sunlight as they navigated between flowering plants, primitive flies buzzing through humid air thick with pollen, and early wasps patrolling territories with military precision. This aerial highway was teeming with protein-rich prey, but it remained largely inaccessible to ground-based predators. Traditional hunting methods were completely inadequate for capturing these aerial acrobats. Ground-dwelling spiders could only dream of accessing this abundant food source that literally flew over their heads every day. The challenge seemed insurmountable. How do you catch something that can simply fly away the moment it detects danger? The solution that spiders developed represents one of the most ingenious technological breakthroughs in natural history. Instead of trying to chase flying prey, they decided to bring the prey to them. They began constructing three-dimensional capture devices that could intercept flight paths and hold struggling victims until the spider could deliver the killing strike. But calling these early structures webs almost diminishes their revolutionary impact. What spiders had actually invented was the biological equivalent of radar networks, early warning systems, and automated traps, all rolled into one incredible package. These weren't just hunting tools. They were sophisticated pieces of biotechnology that could operate independently while their creators conserved energy for other activities. Think about the engineering challenges involved in this innovation. Spiders had to develop silk formulations with precisely the right combination of strength, elasticity, and stickiness to capture flying insects without breaking under the impact forces. They needed to design structural frameworks that could withstand wind loads while remaining sensitive enough to detect the tiny vibrations caused by trapped prey. Most incredibly, they had to solve these engineering problems using only the materials their own bodies could produce. No external tools, no trial and error prototyping with different materials, just evolutionary refinement operating over millions of years to perfect biological manufacturing processes that produced silk with mechanical properties exceeding those of modern synthetic fibers. The first aerial capture structures were relatively simple affairs, basically sheets of silk strung between vegetation that would entangle flying insects through random encounters. But even these primitive designs were revolutionary in their effectiveness. For the first time in predator evolution, a hunter could capture multiple prey items simultaneously while expending minimal energy on the actual hunting process. The success of these early aerial traps triggered an explosive period of web architecture diversification that continues to amaze researchers today. Different spider lineages began experimenting with radically different design approaches, each optimized for specific hunting scenarios and prey types. Some species developed what we now recognize as orb webs, those iconic circular structures that most people associate with spiders. But describing them simply as circular completely fails to capture their engineering sophistication. These geometric marvels represent solutions to complex physics problems involving tension distribution, impact absorption, and structural optimization that human engineers are still trying to fully understand. An orb web isn't just a random arrangement of silk strands. It's a precisely calculated structure where every component serves multiple functions simultaneously. The outer framework provides structural support, while the radial threads distribute impact forces across the entire web. The capture spiral combines sticky silk with non-sticky support strands and patterns that maximize prey retention while minimizing material usage. But here's what makes orb webs truly remarkable. They're essentially analog computers made from biological materials. When an insect hits the web, the impact creates vibration patterns that travel through the silk strands at different speeds and intensities depending on the prey's size, struggle intensity, and location within the web. The spider processes these complex vibration signatures to determine exactly what it has caught and where it's located, even in complete darkness. This information processing capability allows orb weavers to make sophisticated decisions about how to respond to captured prey. Small, harmless insects might be approached immediately for a quick meal. Larger, potentially dangerous prey might be wrapped in additional silk before being approached. Insects that are too small to be worth the energy. Expenditure might simply be ignored until more valuable targets are captured. The precision of this system is absolutely staggering. Experienced orb weavers can distinguish between the vibration signatures of different insect species, determine whether captured prey is still alive or already dead, and even detect the approach of predators that might threaten them while they're handling captured prey. Meanwhile, other spider lineages were developing completely different approaches to aerial prey capture. Tangle web spiders, including the ancestors of modern black widows, created chaotic-looking structures that were actually sophisticated three-dimensional mazes designed to confuse and disorient flying insects. These irregular webs might appear haphazard to human observers, but they represent solutions to entirely different hunting challenges than those addressed by orb webs. Instead of trying to stop flying insects with direct impact, tangle webs are designed to redirect flight paths, creating confusion that causes insects to become increasingly entangled as they struggle to escape. The psychological warfare aspect of tangle web design is particularly fascinating. These structures exploit the panic responses of trapped insects, using their own escape attempts against them. The more frantically an insect struggles, the more thoroughly it becomes wrapped in silk strands, essentially trapping itself through its own survival instincts. But the diversification of web architectures went far beyond these two basic designs. Different spider species began developing increasingly specialized structures optimized for specific prey types and hunting environments. Some created funnel webs that channeled running insects into narrow spaces where escape was impossible. Others developed platform webs that served as launching pads for surprise attacks on prey walking on nearby surfaces. Perhaps most remarkably, some species began constructing what can only be described as biological skyscrapers. These massive web complexes could span multiple trees and reach heights of several meters, creating aerial cities inhabited by hundreds of individual spiders working in coordination. These communal web structures represent some of the most sophisticated examples of animal architecture in the natural world. Different sections of the web serve different functions: nursery areas for protecting eggs and young spiders, central processing zones where captured prey is handled and consumed, and defensive perimeters designed to detect and repel potential threats. The construction of these massive structures requires levels of coordination and communication that challenge our understanding of invertebrate social behavior. Individual spiders must somehow coordinate their silk production to create structurally sound frameworks that can support the weight of the entire colony while maintaining the sensitivity needed for prey detection. Even more impressively, these communal webs can be maintained and expanded over multiple generations. Young spiders learn web construction techniques from their elders, ensuring that architectural knowledge is passed down through spider lineages in ways that closely resemble cultural transmission in more obviously intelligent animals. The engineering principles underlying these various web designs have inspired countless human innovations. Modern materials scientists study spider silk to develop stronger, lighter synthetic fibers. Structural engineers examine web architectures to understand how to build more efficient support systems. Even computer scientists draw inspiration from the information processing capabilities of spider webs when designing sensor networks and automated monitoring systems. But the true genius of web evolution becomes apparent when you consider how spiders manage to optimize their designs for multiple conflicting requirements simultaneously. A successful web must be strong enough to stop flying insects, but sensitive enough to detect their presence. It must be large enough to intercept significant numbers of prey, but not so large that it becomes energetically expensive to maintain. It must be visible enough to entangle insects, but not so conspicuous that it attracts the attention of web-destroying predators. Solving these multidimensional optimization problems required evolutionary processes to explore countless design variations over millions of years. The web architectures we see today represent the survivors of this massive natural experiment in biological engineering, each one perfectly adapted to its specific ecological niche. The impact of web innovation on global ecosystems was immediate and dramatic. Flying insects, which had previously enjoyed relative immunity from most terrestrial predators, suddenly found themselves facing an entirely new category of threat. The arms race between web-building spiders and their aerial prey began driving evolutionary changes that continue to this day. Insects began developing better evasion strategies, enhanced visual systems for detecting webs, and improved flight maneuverability for escaping entanglement. Some species evolved the ability to produce chemicals that could dissolve spider silk, essentially carrying their own web-cutting tools. Others developed behavioral adaptations like flying at different altitudes or during different times of day to avoid peak web activity periods. Spiders responded to these countermeasures by developing even more sophisticated web designs and hunting strategies. Some species began building their webs in locations where detection was nearly impossible until the moment of impact. Others started incorporating visual deception into their web designs, using silk decorations and structural elements that confused insect visual systems. The evolutionary feedback loop between web-building spiders and flying insects created one of the most dynamic predator-prey relationships in natural history. Each innovation on one side triggered corresponding adaptations on the other, driving both groups to higher and higher levels of sophistication. This coevolutionary arms race had profound effects on entire ecosystems. The presence of aerial web traps fundamentally altered insect flight patterns, migration routes, and habitat preferences. Plant pollination networks were affected as insects modified their foraging behaviors to avoid web-dense areas. Even bird populations were influenced as insect-eating species had to compete with increasingly efficient spider predators. The success of web-building strategies also triggered rapid diversification among spider lineages themselves. Species that mastered aerial prey capture gained access to abundant food sources that allowed them to support larger populations, colonize new habitats. This evolutionary success provided the foundation for the explosive radiation of spider diversity that characterizes the modern era. But web construction represented just one aspect of the hunting revolution that spiders achieved during this period. Parallel innovations in venom chemistry, sensory systems, and behavioral strategies were creating predators of unprecedented sophistication and efficiency. The venom systems that spiders developed during their web-building phase represent some of the most complex biochemical weapons in the animal kingdom. Unlike the relatively simple toxins of their ancestors, modern spider venoms contain dozens or even hundreds of different compounds, each precisely calibrated to affect specific physiological systems in their prey. Some venom components cause immediate paralysis by blocking nerve signal transmission. Others disrupt cardiovascular function, causing rapid circulatory collapse. Still others begin breaking down cellular structures at the molecular level, essentially predigesting the prey from the inside out while it's still alive. But perhaps most remarkably, many spider species can actually modify their venom composition based on the type of prey they're attacking. When facing flying insects that might damage their webs during death struggles, they inject fast-acting neurotoxins that cause immediate immobilization. When dealing with ground-dwelling prey that poses no threat to web structures, they might use slower-acting compounds that conserve their more energetically expensive venom components. This adaptive venom delivery represents a level of biochemical sophistication that rivals the most advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing processes. Spiders are essentially carrying personalized drug factories in their bodies, capable of producing custom chemical cocktails optimized for every hunting scenario they encounter. The sensory innovations that accompanied web evolution were equally revolutionary. Web-building spiders developed the ability to process incredibly complex vibration patterns transmitted through the silk structures, essentially turning their webs into massive sensory organs that could provide detailed information about everything happening within their vicinity. A skilled web spider can determine the size, species, struggle intensity, and exact location of trapped prey just from the vibration signatures transmitted through silk strands. They can distinguish between prey items and debris, detect the approach of potential threats, and even monitor weather conditions that might affect web performance. Some species have pushed this vibration-based sensing to absolutely incredible extremes. They can detect the footsteps of walking insects from remarkable distances, identify the wingbeat frequencies of different flying species, and even recognize the specific vibration patterns created by potential mates approaching their webs. This acoustic sophistication allows web spiders to make complex behavioral decisions without ever seeing their prey directly. They can assess whether captured insects are worth the energy expenditure required to approach and subdue them, determine the optimal attack strategy for different prey types, and coordinate their responses with environmental conditions that affect hunting success. The behavioral flexibility that web-building spiders developed represents another area where their evolution reached almost supernatural levels of sophistication. Unlike their ambush hunting ancestors, web spiders had to master complex construction techniques, maintenance routines, and prey handling procedures that required levels of behavioral coordination previously unknown in the spider world. Web construction itself involves incredibly precise motor control and spatial reasoning abilities. A spider building an orb web must maintain perfect tension relationships between dozens of silk strands while navigating a three-dimensional structure that exists primarily in its own memory. The geometric precision required for successful web construction suggests cognitive abilities that challenge our assumptions about invertebrate intelligence. But construction is just the beginning. Successful web spiders must also master maintenance routines that keep their capture devices functioning at peak efficiency. They need to recognize when silk strands have been damaged and require replacement, identify optimal times for complete web reconstruction, and adjust their construction techniques based on environmental conditions like wind patterns and humidity levels. The prey-handling behaviors that web spiders developed are equally sophisticated. Different prey types require different approaches. Small insects might be consumed immediately, while larger prey needs to be wrapped in additional silk before being approached. Dangerous prey like wasps or bees require specialized handling techniques that minimize the risk of injury to the spider. Some web spiders have even developed what can only be described as farming behaviors. Instead of immediately consuming all captured prey, they maintain living insect collections wrapped in silk, essentially creating fresh food storage systems that can sustain them through periods when new prey capture is unsuccessful. The cumulative effect of all these innovations was to create predators that operated on entirely different principles from anything that had existed before in evolutionary history. Web-building spiders had essentially transcended the physical limitations that constrained other predators, using external tools and sophisticated behavioral strategies to achieve hunting success that would be impossible through physical prowess alone. This technological approach to predation proved incredibly successful. Web-building spider lineages exploded in diversity during the Cretaceous period, rapidly colonizing ecological niches that had never been exploited by terrestrial predators. Their success was so dramatic that they fundamentally altered the structure of terrestrial food webs, establishing themselves as dominant predators in most land-based ecosystems. But just as spiders were reaching these new heights of evolutionary sophistication, another cosmic catastrophe was approaching that would test their survival abilities once again. The asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs was just around the corner, and with it would come environmental changes so severe that they would challenge every adaptation spiders had developed over their long evolutionary history. The question was whether their remarkable innovations in web construction, venom chemistry, and behavioral sophistication would be enough to carry them through another mass extinction event. The answer would determine whether spiders would join the countless species that vanished forever, or whether their evolutionary creativity was robust enough to survive even the most catastrophic environmental changes. What happened next would prove that spiders possessed something even more valuable than their incredible hunting innovations, an almost supernatural ability to adapt their sophisticated technologies to completely novel environmental conditions. The asteroid impact of 66 million years ago wasn't just another extinction event for spiders. It was the ultimate test of evolutionary adaptability, and the results would be nothing short of extraordinary. When that massive space rock slammed into Earth with the force of billions of nuclear weapons, it created environmental conditions unlike anything our planet had experienced in hundreds of millions of years. Global wildfires turned the sky black with smoke and ash. Acid rain fell from poisoned clouds. Temperatures plummeted as debris blocked sunlight for months or even years. Most large animals simply couldn't survive these apocalyptic conditions. Dinosaurs, which had dominated terrestrial ecosystems for over 160 million years, were driven to extinction, along with countless other species. Marine ecosystems collapsed as plankton populations died off, eliminating the foundation of oceanic food webs. But spiders. Spiders not only survived this global catastrophe, they actually emerged from it more diverse and successful than ever before. Their small size, low metabolic requirements, and incredibly versatile hunting strategies made them perfectly adapted for survival in a post-apocalyptic world where normal ecological relationships had completely broken down. Think about the advantages that web-building spiders possessed during this crisis. While other predators were starving as their prey populations collapsed, spiders could modify their web designs to capture whatever insects managed to survive the extinction event. Their ability to enter extended dormancy periods meant they could survive months without food while larger predators died of starvation. Most importantly, their behavioral flexibility allowed them to adapt their hunting strategies almost instantly to completely changed environmental conditions. Web spiders could switch to ground hunting when flying insects became scarce. Ambush predators could modify their burrow construction to deal with altered soil conditions created by asteroid debris. This adaptability wasn't just about survival. As ecosystems began recovering from the extinction event, spiders were positioned to exploit opportunities that would have been impossible for less flexible predators. The elimination of many competing predator groups left ecological niches vacant that spiders could colonize using their diverse hunting technologies. The result was an explosion of spider innovation and diversification that dwarfed anything they had achieved before. As the Cenozoic era began and flowering plants started taking over terrestrial ecosystems, spiders were ready to exploit every available niche with unprecedented creativity and success. The coevolution between flowering plants and their insect pollinators created entirely new ecological opportunities that spiders were uniquely positioned to exploit. Bees, butterflies, beetles, and countless other flying insects were diversifying at incredible rates, providing abundant prey for any predator clever enough to catch them. Spiders responded to this bonanza with hunting innovations that seem almost like science fiction. Some species evolved to become perfect biological mimics, using their bodies as living camouflage to blend seamlessly into flower petals where they could ambush unsuspecting pollinators with surgical precision. The level of visual deception that these flower spiders achieved represents one of the most sophisticated examples of evolutionary camouflage in the animal kingdom. Crab spiders, for example, developed the ability to change their body coloration to match whatever flower they were hunting from, essentially becoming biological chameleons that could disappear against virtually any background. But visual camouflage was just the beginning. Some spider lineages took deception to absolutely mind-bending levels by developing chemical warfare capabilities that bordered on the supernatural. Bola spiders learned to produce and release pheromone cocktails that perfectly mimic the mating scents of female moths, essentially becoming biological perfume factories that could manufacture any chemical signature they needed. Picture the incredible sophistication of this hunting strategy. A bola spider will position itself on a suitable hunting perch, then begin producing pheromones that exactly match the chemical signature of a receptive female moth of a specific species. Male moths driven by millions of years of evolutionary programming to seek out mates, detect these chemical signals, and follow them through the darkness. What they find, instead of a potential mate, is a spider armed with a silk lasso tipped with stick capture glue. The spider swings this biological fishing line with perfect timing, snagging moths out of midair like a tiny cowboy roping cattle. The precision required for this hunting technique is absolutely staggering, involving perfect coordination of chemical production, behavioral timing, and physical execution. But here's what makes bola spiders truly extraordinary. Different species have evolved to produce pheromone cocktails that target specific moth species. They're not just using generic attractive chemicals. They're manufacturing custom scent profiles that allow them to hunt particular prey with incredible selectivity. This level of biochemical sophistication represents evolutionary innovation at its absolute peak. These spiders have essentially become living pharmaceutical laboratories capable of producing complex organic compounds with precision that rivals modern chemical manufacturing processes. The success of these deceptive hunting strategies inspired even more elaborate innovations throughout spider evolution. Some species developed the ability to mimic not just the appearance or scent of other creatures, but their behavior patterns as well. Certain jumping spiders learn to move in ways that perfectly imitate the courtship dances of other arthropods, luring potential prey into range through behavioral deception rather than visual or chemical camouflage. Others mastered the art of acoustic mimicry, producing vibrations that mimic the sounds made by prey species or potential mates. Web spiders began incorporating these acoustic deceptions into their hunting strategies, using their webs as musical instruments to produce sounds that would attract specific types of prey. The sensory arms race between spiders and their prey reached incredible levels of sophistication as both groups evolved increasingly elaborate detection and counter-detection capabilities. Prey species developed better vision for spotting hidden spiders, enhanced chemical detection systems for identifying dangerous pheromones, and improved escape reflexes for avoiding capture. Spiders responded by developing even more subtle forms of deception. Some species learned to exploit the sensory limitations of their prey, positioning themselves in visual blind spots, or using environmental conditions like backlighting to become effectively invisible until the moment of attack. The behavioral complexity that emerged from these evolutionary arms races created spider hunting strategies that seem almost intelligent in their sophistication. Modern jumping spiders, for example, have been observed planning multi-step hunting sequences that require them to move out of direct sight of their prey and approach from unexpected angles. These tiny predators will study their targets for extended periods, apparently calculating distance, trajectory, and timing before making their attack. They can adjust their approach based on prey behavior, abort unsuccessful attacks, and try different strategies, and even learn from failed hunting attempts to improve their future success rates. The cognitive abilities required for this type of behavioral flexibility suggest that spider evolution has produced creatures with information processing capabilities that rival those of much larger animals. Despite having brains smaller than pinheads, These spiders can execute hunting strategies that require planning, problem-solving, and adaptability. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of spider evolution during the Cenozoic was their development of technologies for long-distance travel and colonization. Despite being fundamentally terrestrial creatures without wings, spiders conquered the challenge of dispersal, using innovations that would make any aerospace engineer jealous. The ballooning behavior that we mentioned earlier evolved into incredibly sophisticated aerial navigation systems that allow spiders to essentially fly without wings. Young spiders learn to release silk strands into moving air currents and use them like parachutes or glider wings to travel vast distances across seemingly impossible barriers. Recent research has revealed that ballooning spiders possess navigation capabilities that seem almost supernatural. They can detect electrical fields in the atmosphere and use these fields to control their takeoff timing and flight direction. They're essentially surfing on electromagnetic phenomena that exist between the Earth's surface and the upper atmosphere. This discovery has completely revolutionized our understanding of spider dispersal abilities. These creatures aren't just passive passengers on wind currents. They're active pilots using environmental cues that we're only beginning to understand to navigate across continents and oceans with remarkable precision. The success of these dispersal technologies explains how spiders managed to colonize virtually every terrestrial habitat on Earth, from remote oceanic islands to isolated mountain peaks. Their ability to travel vast distances as juveniles, combined with their incredible adaptability once they reach new environments, has made them one of the most cosmopolitan groups of animals in natural history. But dispersal was just one aspect of the transportation revolution that spiders achieved during their Cenozoic diversification. Some lineages developed techniques for underwater travel that allowed them to colonize aquatic environments while remaining fundamentally air-breathing creatures. Diving bell spiders represent one of the most extraordinary examples of biological engineering in the animal kingdom. These remarkable creatures learn to construct portable air supplies from silk that allow them to live and hunt completely underwater while maintaining their terrestrial respiratory systems. The physics involved in creating and maintaining these underwater air bubbles is incredibly complex. The spiders have to account for water pressure, gas diffusion rates, and the structural integrity of their silk under aquatic conditions. Yet they've mastered these challenges so completely that some species spend their entire lives underwater, only occasionally visiting the surface to refresh their air supplies. These aquatic spiders didn't just solve the problem of underwater breathing, they developed entire hunting ecosystems specifically designed for aquatic environments. They can detect the vibrations of swimming prey through water, launch surprise attacks from their air-filled lairs, and even reproduce underwater using their silk bubble technology. The engineering principles underlying diving bell construction have inspired numerous human innovations in underwater habitats and breathing apparatus design. The efficiency with which these spiders manage gas exchange in their silk bubbles provides insights into optimizing life support systems for extended underwater operations. Meanwhile, other spider lineages were pushing the boundaries of terrestrial navigation and communication technologies. Some species developed the ability to communicate across remarkable distances using vibration signals transmitted through the ground, essentially creating biological telegraph systems that could coordinate behavior across entire territories. Wolf spiders, for example, learned to generate complex vibration patterns by drumming their legs against the ground in specific rhythms. These acoustic signals can travel through soil and rock for considerable distances, allowing spiders to communicate their location, reproductive status, and territorial boundaries to other individuals without ever coming into direct contact. The sophistication of these communication systems rivals that of many more obviously intelligent animals. Different species have developed distinct languages of vibration patterns, with specific signals for different types of information. Some can even modulate their signal intensity and frequency to account for different soil types and environmental conditions that affect vibration transmission. But perhaps the most remarkable communication innovation developed by spiders involves their use of chemical signals that can persist in the environment for extended periods. Some species learn to produce pheromone markers that essentially function as biological post-it notes, leaving chemical messages that other spiders can read and interpret long after the original signaler has moved on. These chemical communication systems allow spiders to coordinate complex social behaviors without requiring direct contact between individuals. Territory boundaries can be established and maintained through scent marking. Reproductive status can be advertised to potential mates across considerable distances. Even hunting information can be shared through chemical signals that indicate prey availability in specific areas. The combination of vibration-based and chemical communication systems has allowed some spider species to develop levels of social coordination that approach those of much more famous social insects. Certain species can coordinate group hunting activities, share information about resource availability, and even engage in cooperative territory defense using these sophisticated communication technologies. The social behaviors that emerged from these communication innovations represent some of the most dramatic examples of behavioral evolution in spider history. Remember, these are descendants of creatures that were primarily solitary, cannibalistic predators. The fact that they could evolve mechanisms to suppress their aggressive instincts toward other spiders and develop cooperative behaviors represents one of the most remarkable behavioral transformations in evolutionary history. Some social spider species have developed colonies that can contain thousands of individuals working together in ways that seem almost impossible, given their evolutionary starting point. These colonies construct communal webs that can cover entire trees, creating massive, three-dimensional hunting structures operated by coordinated teams of specialists. Within these colonies, individual spiders take on specific roles that maximize the efficiency of the entire group. Some individuals become dedicated web architects, Others specialize in prey detection and capture, and still others focus on colony defense and maintenance. The division of labor within these spider societies rivals that found in the most sophisticated insect colonies. Yet it evolved completely independently from a radically different evolutionary starting point. The most remarkable aspect of these social spider colonies is how they've managed to overcome one of the most fundamental constraints in spider biology: cannibalism. For hundreds of millions of years, spiders have been programmed by evolution to view other spiders as potential prey. The development of mechanisms that allow thousands of individuals to live and work together without eating each other represents a complete rewiring of their most basic behavioral instincts. These social spiders have developed recognition systems that allow them to distinguish between colony members and potential prey with incredible precision. They use combinations of chemical signatures, behavioral cues, and even tactile recognition patterns to identify individuals that should be treated as allies rather than meals. But the innovations don't stop at simple recognition. Some social spider species have evolved individuals that essentially sacrifice their own reproductive potential to serve the colony's needs. These sterile workers, similar to those found in ant and bee societies, dedicate their entire lives to maintaining communal webs, caring for the colony's young, and defending against predators. The evolution of this altruistic behavior required spiders to develop genetic and social mechanisms that promote group success over individual reproductive success. This represents one of the most profound shifts in evolutionary strategy possible, transforming creatures that were originally designed for individual competition into cooperative team players. The hunting capabilities that these social spider colonies can achieve are absolutely staggering. Working together, they can construct web systems that span multiple trees and capture prey items that would be impossible for any individual spider to handle. Some colonies have been observed taking down small birds, bats, and even occasionally small mammals that become entangled in their massive communal webs. The coordinated attack strategies that these social spiders employ during group hunts involve levels of tactical coordination that seem almost military in their precision. When large prey is captured, dozens of individuals will swarm the struggling victim, each contributing silk for immobilization, while others inject venom to ensure rapid subdual. This cooperative hunting approach allows social spider colonies to exploit food sources that are completely inaccessible to solitary species. They can take advantage of seasonal migrations of flying insects, coordinate their hunting efforts around weather patterns that affect prey behavior, and even engage in what can only be described as strategic planning for major hunting operations. The success of these social hunting strategies has allowed some colonies to achieve population densities and biomass concentrations that rival those of much larger predators. A single large spider colony can contain more predatory biomass per square meter than populations of birds, mammals, or reptiles in the same habitat. But social cooperation represents just one direction that spider evolution has taken during their modern diversification. Other lineages have pushed individual hunting capabilities to absolutely incredible extremes, developing technologies and strategies that seem to defy the laws of physics. Some species have mastered the art of precision ballistics, learning to launch themselves through the air with mathematical accuracy that allows them to intercept moving prey in three-dimensional space. These aerial hunting specialists can calculate trajectory, account for wind conditions, and adjust their body position mid-flight to ensure successful prey capture. The physics involved in these ballistic hunting techniques is incredibly complex. The spiders must account for their own momentum, the movement patterns of their prey, environmental factors like air resistance and wind direction, and the precise timing required to execute successful mid-air captures. Yet they perform these calculations instinctively, using neural processing systems that can solve complex physics problems in milliseconds. The fact that creatures with such tiny brains can execute these sophisticated ballistic maneuvers suggests that evolution has developed incredibly efficient solutions to complex computational challenges. Other species have developed what can only be described as biological sniper capabilities, using silk-based projectile systems to capture prey from remarkable distances. These spiders construct specialized launching devices from silk that can propel sticky capture threads with incredible accuracy across distances that seem impossible given their small size. The engineering principles underlying these projectile systems involve sophisticated understanding of elastic energy storage, projectile aerodynamics, and targeting accuracy. The spiders essentially construct biological crossbows that can deliver silk projectiles with precision that would be impressive even by human standards. But perhaps the most mind-bending innovations in modern spider evolution involve species that have learned to manipulate the behavior of other creatures to serve their hunting needs. Some spiders have developed the ability to essentially hijack the nervous systems of their prey using specialized venoms that don't kill their victims, but instead turn them into zombie-like servants. These neurological manipulation techniques allow spiders to control the behavior of insects and other arthropods, essentially turning their prey into hunting assistants that can help capture additional victims. The biochemical sophistication required for this type of behavioral control represents one of the most advanced examples of biological mind control in the animal kingdom. The venom cocktails that these behavioral manipulation spiders produce contain compounds that specifically target the neural pathways responsible for decision-making and motor control in their victims. Instead of causing paralysis or death, these toxins essentially reprogram the victim's nervous system, turning independent creatures into biological puppets that respond to the spider's chemical commands. Picture the incredible sophistication required for this type of neurological warfare. The spider must produce toxins that are precisely calibrated to affect specific brain regions without damaging the motor functions needed for the victim to remain useful. It's like performing brain surgery with chemical precision, rewiring neural circuits to serve the predator's needs while keeping the host alive and functional. Some of these zombie-making spiders have learned to use their controlled victims as mobile hunting platforms. The infected insects continue to move and behave normally in most respects, but they're now compelled to seek out additional prey that they deliver directly to their spider controller. It's biological slavery at the molecular level, with the spider essentially running a network of unwilling hunting assistants. The evolutionary implications of these behavioral control techniques are absolutely staggering. We're looking at predators that have transcended the traditional limitations of individual hunting, essentially creating biological technology that multiplies their predatory capabilities through sophisticated neurochemical manipulation. But even as spiders were developing these almost alien hunting technologies, they were also adapting to the most dramatic environmental changes in their entire evolutionary history. The rise of human civilization created challenges and opportunities that no spider lineage had ever encountered before. Industrial development, agricultural expansion, and urban growth began altering spider habitats at rates that dwarfed anything they had experienced during natural environmental changes. Forests that had existed for millennia were cleared in decades. Wetlands were drained. Grasslands were converted to farmland, and entirely artificial environments began spreading across landscapes that had supported diverse spider communities for millions of years. Initially, these rapid changes seemed to spell disaster for many spider populations. Species that had evolved for specific habitat types found their environments disappearing faster than they could adapt. Agricultural pesticides began eliminating not just target pests, but also the insects that spiders depended on for food, creating ecological deserts where once thriving spider communities simply couldn't survive. Some of the most specialized species suffered catastrophic population declines. Spiders that had spent millions of years perfecting adaptations for particular forest types or wetland conditions found themselves facing extinction as their habitats vanished. Research studies began documenting dramatic population crashes, with some species declining to less than 1% of their historical abundance within just a few decades. But just as they had done countless times before in their evolutionary history, spiders began demonstrating their remarkable ability to find opportunities within catastrophic change. While some species struggled with human environmental modification, others discovered that the new landscapes humans were creating actually provided unprecedented opportunities for spider innovation and expansion. Urban environments, initially dismissed as biological wastelands hostile to most wildlife, began revealing themselves as potential spider paradise. The complex three-dimensional architecture of cities created countless microhabitats that web-building species could exploit. Buildings provided vertical surfaces for web attachment that were often more stable and predictable than natural vegetation. Street lighting and building illumination created artificial ecosystems that attracted flying insects in concentrations that would have been impossible in natural environments. Enterprising spiders learned to position their webs around these light sources, essentially turning human infrastructure into massive insect aggregation devices that provided abundant prey throughout the night. Some species became so perfectly adapted to urban life that they now exist almost exclusively in human-modified environments. These urban specialists have essentially co-evolved with human civilization, developing hunting strategies and behavioral adaptations that are specifically designed to exploit the opportunities that cities provide. American house spiders represent perfect examples of this urban adaptation success story. These remarkable creatures have learned to thrive in the nooks and crannies of human buildings, constructing their webs in basements, attics, and storage areas where they feed on the various insects that inevitably invade human dwellings. But they've gone far beyond simple habitat exploitation. These urban spiders have developed sophisticated understanding of human behavior patterns, adjusting their activity cycles to avoid peak human traffic periods and positioning their webs in locations where they're unlikely to be disturbed by building maintenance or cleaning activities. The behavioral flexibility that allows spiders to adapt to urban environments represents one of the most impressive examples of real-time evolutionary adaptation we can observe in action. We're witnessing species modify their hunting strategies, web construction techniques, and even their reproductive behaviors in response to environmental conditions that didn't exist just a few centuries ago. Some urban spider populations have been observed developing resistance to common household pesticides, essentially evolving chemical defenses against human attempts to control their populations. Others have learned to exploit human waste streams, feeding on insects attracted to garbage disposal areas and food preparation sites. The success of urban adapted spiders has been so dramatic that some cities now support spider populations that are more diverse and abundant than the natural ecosystems that existed in the same locations before human development. These urban spider communities represent entirely new ecological assemblages that combine species from different natural habitats with urban specialists that exist nowhere else. But urban adaptation represents just one facet of spider response to human environmental impact. Agricultural landscapes have created different challenges and opportunities that have driven spider evolution in completely different directions. Modern farming practices initially seemed devastating to spider populations. The use of broad-spectrum pesticides eliminated many of the insects that spiders depended on for food, while mechanical cultivation destroyed the stable habitat structures that many species required for web construction and reproduction. However, spiders quickly discovered that agricultural ecosystems also provided unique advantages that weren't available in natural environments. Crop monocultures created predictable concentrations of specific pest insects that spiders could learn to exploit. The elimination of larger predators through habitat modification reduced competition for spider hunting territories. Some spider species became incredibly valuable allies in agricultural pest control, developing hunting strategies specifically targeted at insects that damage crops. These agricultural specialists learned to time their reproductive cycles with pest outbreaks, ensuring that peak spider abundance coincided with maximum prey availability. Farmers began recognizing the incredible value of these spider populations and started modifying their practices to encourage spider establishment. Reduced pesticide use, habitat corridors between fields, and strategic placement of spider-friendly vegetation became common practices in integrated pest management systems. The result has been the evolution of spider communities that are essentially domesticated partners in human food production. These agricultural spiders have adapted their hunting strategies to focus on crop pests while avoiding beneficial insects like pollinators, essentially becoming biological pest control specialists that work in partnership with human agricultural goals. The precision with which these agricultural spiders have adapted to human farming systems is absolutely remarkable. Some species have learned to distinguish between pest insects and beneficial species, focusing their hunting efforts on targets that farmers want eliminated while ignoring insects that provide valuable ecosystem services. Others have developed seasonal behavior patterns that complement agricultural cycles, increasing their hunting activity during periods when pest pressure is highest and entering dormancy phases during times when their presence might interfere with farming operations. This level of behavioral adaptation to human activities suggests that spiders possess cognitive flexibility that allows them to learn and respond to environmental patterns on timescales much shorter than traditional evolutionary adaptation. We're seeing behavioral plasticity that approaches what we might call cultural learning in more obviously intelligent animals. The success of spider adaptation to human-modified environments has been so dramatic that many species are now more abundant and successful than they were before human environmental impact began. While this might seem to contradict concerns about biodiversity loss, it actually highlights one of the most important lessons from spider evolutionary history. Spiders have succeeded not by resisting environmental change, but by embracing it as an opportunity for innovation and expansion. Their evolutionary strategy has always been based on flexibility, adaptability, and the ability to exploit whatever opportunities arise, regardless of their source. This adaptability has made spiders incredibly resilient in the face of rapid environmental change. While many other animal groups have suffered dramatic population declines due to human impact, spider populations have generally remained stable or even increased in many regions. In fact, some researchers argue that human environmental modification may actually be accelerating spider evolution by creating new selective pressures and ecological opportunities at unprecedented rates. The rapid environmental changes associated with human development are essentially providing spiders with evolutionary challenges that are driving innovation and adaptation at speeds that would be impossible under natural conditions. Climate change represents another major environmental challenge that spiders are currently adapting to in real time. Shifting temperature patterns, altered precipitation cycles, and changing seasonal timing are creating new environmental conditions that require rapid behavioral and physiological adjustments. Some spider species are responding to climate change by expanding their geographical ranges, colonizing regions that were previously too cold or too dry to support their populations. Others are modifying their reproductive timing to match changing seasonal patterns, ensuring that their life cycles remain synchronized with optimal environmental conditions. The dispersal abilities that spiders developed over hundreds of millions of years are proving crucial for climate adaptation. Species can rapidly colonize new habitats as environmental conditions shift, using their ballooning capabilities and behavioral flexibility to track suitable conditions across changing landscapes. But climate adaptation isn't just about geographical movement. Many spider species are also showing remarkable physiological plasticity, adjusting their metabolism, growth rates, and reproductive strategies to cope with changing environmental conditions. Some populations have been observed developing tolerance to temperature extremes that would have been lethal to their ancestors just a few generations ago. Others have modified their hunting strategies to exploit new prey species that are expanding their ranges in response to climate change. The speed with which these adaptations are occurring suggests that spiders possess genetic and physiological flexibility that allows them to respond to environmental challenges much more rapidly than most other animal groups. This adaptive capacity has been crucial throughout their evolutionary history, allowing them to survive multiple mass extinction events and environmental catastrophes. As we look toward the future, spiders are continuing to evolve and adapt in response to ongoing environmental changes. New species are being discovered regularly, many of which exhibit hunting strategies and behavioral adaptations that push the boundaries of what we thought was possible in spider evolution. Urban environments are continuing to evolve as human technology advances, creating new opportunities for spider innovation. Smart city infrastructure, green building designs, and urban ecosystem management are creating novel habitat types that spiders are already beginning to colonize and exploit. Agricultural practices are becoming increasingly sophisticated, with precision farming techniques and biological pest control strategies creating new partnership opportunities between humans and spider populations. These collaborations are driving the evolution of spider communities that are essentially designed to complement human food production goals. Climate change will continue creating new environmental challenges and opportunities that will drive spider evolution in directions we can't yet predict. The combination of changing environmental conditions and ongoing human development is creating a world that is changing faster than anything spiders have experienced in their evolutionary history. But if their past performance is any indication, spiders will not only survive these changes, they'll find ways to exploit them as opportunities for innovation and expansion. Their remarkable adaptability, sophisticated hunting technologies, and behavioral flexibility have carried them through nearly 400 million years of environmental challenges. The innovations we've witnessed so far represent just the beginning of what spiders might achieve as they continue adapting to our rapidly changing world. Their evolutionary creativity has consistently surprised researchers with solutions that seem to defy the laws of physics and biology. As we continue studying these remarkable creatures, we're constantly discovering new aspects of their biology that challenge our assumptions about what's possible in evolutionary development. Each new discovery adds another chapter to what is already one of the most incredible success stories in the history of life on Earth. The evolution of spiders represents a masterclass in biological innovation, demonstrating how natural selection can craft solutions to complex challenges that exceed anything human technology has achieved. From their humble beginnings as simple proto-spiders to their current status as some of the most sophisticated predators on the planet, their journey showcases the incredible creative potential of evolutionary processes. But their story is far from over. As environmental conditions continue changing and new challenges emerge, spiders will undoubtedly continue developing new innovations, new strategies, and new technologies that will add even more chapters to their already extraordinary evolutionary tale. The next phase of spider evolution is being written right now in urban environments and agricultural landscapes in response to climate change and technological development. If their remarkable history teaches us anything, it's that whatever challenges the future holds, spiders will find ways not just to survive, but to thrive in ways that will continue surprising and inspiring us for generations to come. The future of spider evolution is unfolding before our eyes in ways that would have seemed impossible just decades ago. As we witness these remarkable creatures adapting to our rapidly changing world, we're seeing evolutionary processes operating at speeds that challenge everything we thought we knew about biological adaptation. Modern spider populations are essentially living laboratories where we can observe evolution in real time. Urban environments that didn't exist a century ago are now home to spider communities that have developed hunting strategies specifically designed for city life. Agricultural landscapes are supporting spider populations that have learned to distinguish between pest insects and beneficial pollinators with surgical precision. But here's what makes this ongoing evolution truly extraordinary. Spiders aren't just passively responding to human environmental changes. They're actively exploiting the opportunities that our technological civilization has created, turning human infrastructure into hunting platforms that are more efficient than anything available in natural ecosystems. Take the incredible example of spiders that have learned to exploit electromagnetic fields generated by human electrical systems. These remarkable creatures are using power lines, cell phone towers, and building wiring as navigation aids that help them locate optimal hunting territories with unprecedented precision. Some urban spider populations have been observed positioning their webs near Wi-Fi routers and electronic devices, apparently using the electromagnetic signatures of these technologies to enhance their prey detection capabilities. They're essentially turning human technology into biological sensors that provide them with information about their environment that would be impossible to obtain through natural means alone. The sophistication of these technological adaptations suggests that spider evolution is entering entirely new territory. We're witnessing the emergence of spider-human hybrid ecosystems, where biological and technological systems are becoming integrated in ways that benefit both species. But electromagnetic exploitation represents just one dimension of the technological revolution that spiders are currently experiencing. Other populations have developed relationships with human transportation systems that allow them to disperse across continents with remarkable efficiency. Spiders have learned to exploit cargo containers, shipping networks, and air travel to spread their populations globally at rates that would be impossible through natural dispersal methods. They're essentially hitchhiking on human commerce to colonize new territories faster than any biological dispersal mechanism could achieve. This technological-assisted dispersal has created spider populations that are more genetically diverse and adaptable than their natural ancestors. By mixing genetic material from populations that would never have encountered each other in nature, human transportation networks are accelerating spider evolution in ways that are producing entirely new combinations of traits and capabilities. Some of these globally dispersed spider populations are developing hunting strategies that combine techniques from multiple evolutionary lineages, creating hybrid approaches to predation that exceed the capabilities of any single ancestral group. We're seeing the emergence of super spiders that possess the best characteristics from spider populations around the world. The implications of this accelerated evolution are staggering. In just a few centuries of interaction with human civilization, spiders have developed adaptations that might have taken millions of years to evolve under natural conditions. Human technology isn't just changing spider habitats, it's fundamentally accelerating the pace of spider evolution itself. But technological exploitation represents just one aspect of the spider revolution that's currently underway. Perhaps even more remarkably, some spider populations are beginning to show signs of what can only be described as cultural learning capabilities that rival those of much more obviously intelligent animals. Urban spider communities have been observed developing location-specific hunting traditions that are passed down through multiple generations. Young spiders in these populations learn web construction techniques, prey identification skills, and territorial behaviors that are specifically adapted to their local urban environment. These cultural traditions aren't encoded in spider DNA. They're learned behaviors that are transmitted from experienced adults to juveniles through observation and imitation. We're witnessing the emergence of spider cultures that are as distinct and specialized as those found in human societies. Different cities are developing their own unique spider cultural signatures, with populations in New York exhibiting hunting behaviors that are completely different from those found in London, Tokyo, or Sao Paulo. Each urban environment is essentially creating its own school of spider innovation, with local populations developing solutions to challenges that are specific to their particular technological landscape. The speed at which these cultural innovations spread through spider populations is absolutely remarkable. New hunting techniques can propagate through an entire urban spider community within a single generation, allowing populations to adapt to changing conditions faster than genetic evolution could possibly accommodate. Some researchers have even documented examples of cross-species cultural transmission, where successful hunting innovations developed by one spider species are adopted and modified by completely different species living in the same urban environment. We're seeing interspecies technology transfer. that's creating hunting capabilities that no single species could have developed independently. This cultural evolution is producing spider communities that are becoming increasingly sophisticated with each passing generation. Urban spiders today possess hunting capabilities and environmental knowledge that far exceed those of their rural counterparts, despite being genetically nearly identical. The cognitive implications of these cultural learning abilities are absolutely mind-blowing. We're looking at creatures with brains smaller than pinheads that are demonstrating learning capabilities, memory retention, and knowledge transmission skills that challenge our fundamental assumptions about invertebrate intelligence. But cultural learning represents just one dimension of the cognitive revolution that's occurring in modern spider populations. Other research has revealed that spiders are developing problem-solving abilities that seem to approach the complexity of vertebrate cognition. Laboratory studies have documented jumping spiders that can learn to navigate complex mazes, solve multi-step puzzles, and even demonstrate what appears to be abstract reasoning when faced with novel hunting challenges. These tiny predators are exhibiting cognitive flexibility that was previously thought to be impossible in invertebrate nervous systems. Some species have been observed developing what can only be described as personality traits, with individual spiders showing consistent behavioral preferences, risk tolerance levels, and social interaction patterns that remain stable throughout their adult lives. We're seeing the emergence of spider individuality that suggests levels of self-awareness that challenge our understanding of consciousness in simple nervous systems. The hunting strategies that these cognitively enhanced spiders are developing seem almost alien in their sophistication. Some individuals have learned to use tools, manipulating environmental objects to improve their hunting success in ways that require planning, problem-solving, and abstract thinking. Others have developed deceptive hunting techniques that involve multiple layers of misdirection and behavioral manipulation. These spiders can essentially run confidence games on their prey, using complex behavioral sequences to create false impressions that lure victims into vulnerable positions. The level of behavioral complexity required for these deceptive hunting strategies suggests that spiders are developing theory of mind capabilities, essentially learning to predict and manipulate the mental states of other creatures. This represents one of the most advanced forms of cognition possible, requiring spiders to model the thoughts and expectations of their prey with incredible accuracy. But cognitive enhancement is just one aspect of the physiological revolution that's occurring in modern spider populations. Other research has revealed that spiders are developing physical capabilities that push the boundaries of what seems possible in biological systems. Some urban spider populations have been observed developing enhanced sensory abilities that allow them to detect environmental cues that are completely invisible to their rural relatives. These city-adapted spiders can sense electromagnetic fields, detect chemical signatures at incredibly low concentrations, and process acoustic information with precision that rivals electronic sensor systems. Others have developed enhanced physical performance capabilities, with urban populations showing jumping abilities, web construction speeds, and venom production rates that significantly exceed those of spiders from natural environments. The constant challenges of city life are essentially creating spider populations that are operating at the absolute limits of biological performance. The metabolic innovations that these enhanced spiders have developed are equally remarkable. Some populations have learned to extract energy from food sources with efficiency levels that approach theoretical maximums, allowing them to maintain high activity levels even when prey availability is limited. Others have developed the ability to enter extended metabolic depression states that allow them to survive resource shortages that would be fatal to normal spider populations. These metabolic flexibility adaptations are essentially giving spiders superpowers that make them nearly indestructible in challenging environments. But perhaps the most remarkable physiological adaptation that modern spiders are developing involves their silk production systems. Some populations have begun producing silk with mechanical properties that exceed those of their ancestors, creating materials that are stronger, more elastic, and more versatile than anything previously documented in spider evolution. These enhanced silk systems are allowing spiders to construct web architectures that were previously impossible, creating hunting structures that are more efficient, more durable, and more adaptable than traditional web designs. We're witnessing the emergence of spider engineering capabilities that seem to approach the sophistication of human technology. Some of these advanced webs incorporate multiple silk types with different mechanical properties, creating composite structures that combine strength, flexibility, and functionality in ways that challenge our understanding of material science. These biological composites exhibit performance characteristics that human engineers are still trying to replicate in synthetic materials. The construction techniques that spiders use to build these advanced webs involve levels of precision and coordination that seem almost impossible given their small size and simple nervous systems. They're essentially performing nanoscale engineering using only the materials their bodies can produce. But silk innovation represents just one dimension of the materials revolution that's occurring in spider evolution. Other populations have begun incorporating environmental materials into their hunting structures, creating hybrid biological technological systems that combine spider silk with human-made materials. Some urban spiders have learned to weave synthetic fibers, metal strands, and even electronic components into their webs, creating hunting structures that possess capabilities that pure biological materials cannot achieve. These hybrid webs can conduct electricity, reflect specific wavelengths of light, and even interface with electronic systems in ways that seem like science fiction. The engineering principles underlying these hybrid web systems suggest that spiders are developing understanding of material science and structural engineering that rivals human technological knowledge. They're essentially becoming biological engineers that can design and construct systems that exceed the capabilities of either pure biology or pure technology. This materials innovation is creating spider populations that are equipped with hunting technologies that were unimaginable just decades ago. We're witnessing the emergence of cyber spiders that exist at the intersection of biology and technology. using the best of both worlds to achieve predatory capabilities that neither could accomplish independently. The success of these technologically enhanced spider populations is creating evolutionary pressures that are driving even more dramatic innovations. Competition between different spider communities is essentially creating an arms race of biological and technological enhancement that's pushing spider evolution into completely uncharted territory. Some populations are developing hunting strategies that seem to anticipate and counter the innovations of their competitors, creating dynamic evolutionary feedback loops that are accelerating the pace of spider advancement at unprecedented rates. We're seeing evolution operating at speeds that approach real-time adaptation. The implications of this accelerated evolutionary arms race extend far beyond spider biology. These rapidly evolving spider populations are creating ecological pressures that are driving innovation in their prey species, their competitors, and even the human technologies they're learning to exploit. Insects are developing new evasion strategies specifically designed to counter advanced spider hunting techniques. Other predators are modifying their behavior to avoid competition with increasingly efficient spider populations. Even human technologies are being modified to account for spider interactions that weren't anticipated by their original designers. We're witnessing the emergence of complex evolutionary feedback systems that involve multiple species and even technological systems, creating dynamic ecological networks that are more complex and interconnected than anything previously documented in natural systems. The spider innovations we're observing today represent just the beginning of what might be possible as these evolutionary processes continue accelerating. The combination of technological enhancement, cultural learning, and accelerated evolution is creating conditions that could produce spider capabilities that seem almost supernatural by current standards. Some researchers speculate that we might be witnessing the early stages of spider populations that could eventually develop capabilities approaching those of science fiction. Enhanced cognition, technological integration, and materials innovation could combine to create spider communities that possess problem-solving abilities and environmental control capabilities that exceed those of much larger animals. The possibility that spiders might develop true technological civilizations seems far-fetched by current standards, but their demonstrated ability to exploit human technology and develop cultural learning suggests that such developments might not be entirely impossible. We're looking at creatures that have already transcended many of the limitations that we thought defined invertebrate capabilities. But even if spiders never develop full technological civilizations, their current evolutionary trajectory suggests that they will continue surprising us with innovations that challenge our understanding of what's possible in biological systems. Their remarkable adaptability and creativity have already produced solutions to environmental challenges that exceed anything human engineers have achieved. The study of modern spider evolution is providing insights that extend far beyond arachnid biology. These creatures are demonstrating principles of adaptation, innovation, and problem-solving that have applications in fields ranging from material science to artificial intelligence to urban planning. The web architectures that spiders are developing inspire new approaches to structural engineering and network design. Their sensory capabilities provide blueprints for advanced sensor systems. Their cognitive flexibility offers insights into developing more adaptable artificial intelligence systems. Perhaps most importantly, spider evolution is teaching us about the incredible creative potential of biological systems when they're challenged by rapidly changing environments. The innovations we're witnessing suggest that life possesses problem-solving capabilities that we're only beginning to understand. As we continue studying these remarkable creatures, we're gaining appreciation for the sophistication and creativity that evolution can produce when given the right conditions and challenges. Spiders are showing us that the boundary between biology and technology is far more fluid than we previously imagined. The future of spider evolution remains unpredictable, but their demonstrated ability to exploit every opportunity and overcome every challenge suggests that their story will continue surprising us for generations to come. We're witnessing one of the most remarkable examples of evolutionary creativity in action, and the implications extend far beyond the spider world itself. The innovations that spiders develop in response to our changing world will likely inspire human technologies that we can't yet imagine. Their solutions to complex environmental challenges provide blueprints for addressing some of our most pressing technological and ecological problems. But perhaps most importantly, the ongoing evolution of spiders reminds us that we're not separate from the natural world, but part of an interconnected system where biological and technological innovation feed off each other in ways that benefit all participants. The partnership between human civilization and spider evolution is creating possibilities that neither could achieve independently. As we continue developing new technologies, spiders will continue finding ways to exploit them for their own purposes, driving innovations that push both biological and technological systems to new heights of sophistication. This symbiotic relationship between human technology and spider evolution represents one of the most promising examples of how biological and artificial systems can work together to solve complex challenges. The future belongs to hybrid systems that combine the best of both worlds, and spiders are showing us how such partnerships might develop. The next chapter in spider evolution is being written right now, in the spaces where human technology meets biological creativity. The story that emerges from this collaboration will likely exceed anything we can currently imagine, adding new dimensions to the already extraordinary tale of spider evolutionary success. After nearly 400 million years of continuous innovation, spiders are entering what might be their most creative period yet. The combination of their evolved adaptability with the opportunities provided by human civilization is creating conditions for evolutionary breakthroughs that could redefine what we think is possible in biological systems. The incredible journey of spider evolution continues, and we're privileged to witness this remarkable story as it unfolds. These eight-legged innovators have already shown us that the limits of biological possibility are far beyond what we previously imagined, and their future promises even greater surprises as they continue adapting to our shared and rapidly changing world. From silk-spinning proto-spiders crawling through ancient swamps to technologically enhanced urban predators that seem pulled from science fiction, we've witnessed one of the most extraordinary evolutionary journeys in natural history. These remarkable creatures have survived asteroid impacts that obliterated the dinosaurs, overcome mass extinction that eliminated most life on Earth, and adapted to environmental changes that would challenge any biological system. But what makes their story truly incredible isn't just their survival. It's their relentless innovation, their boundless creativity, and their supernatural ability to turn every challenge into an opportunity for advancement. Time and time again, when faced with seemingly impossible obstacles, spiders have responded not by retreating, but by evolving solutions that exceed anything we thought was biologically possible. Today, as we watch spider populations adapting to human civilization in real time, we're seeing evolutionary processes operating at speeds that challenge everything we know about biological adaptation. Urban environments that didn't exist centuries ago now support spider communities more diverse than ancient forests. Agricultural landscapes have become partnerships between human farmers and spider populations that work together with precision that would make any team jealous. The innovations we've explored represent just the beginning of spider evolutionary potential. Their journey from simple forest floor scavengers to sophisticated predators wielding chemical weapons, constructing architectural marvels, and developing cognitive abilities that rival much larger animals, demonstrates the incredible creative power of evolution when given sufficient time and challenge. What's most remarkable is that their story continues accelerating. Climate change, technological advancement, and urban expansion are creating new evolutionary pressures that are driving spider innovation faster than ever before. We're witnessing biological creativity operating in real time, producing adaptations that seem to bend the laws of physics and challenge our understanding of what's possible in living systems. The future promises even greater surprises as these evolutionary masters continue adapting to our shared world. Their demonstrated ability to exploit every opportunity, overcome every obstacle, and innovate solutions to impossible challenges suggests that the next chapters of their story will be even more extraordinary than everything we've witnessed so far. After 400 million years of continuous evolutionary refinement, spiders have established themselves as nature's ultimate problem solvers, proving that with enough creativity, flexibility, and time, biological systems can achieve things that seem almost magical in their sophistication. Their incredible journey reminds us that evolution is not just a force of gradual change,